Okay, I think we are live. How are you, Tanish?
I'm great. How are you, Madam Chairperson?
I am doing all right.
Good.
So we are here for another one of our consular issues Q&A series, where we just answer questions that have come in from the community about different consular processes. And so usually we have Carolina Rendeiro from
And
Florida.
I'm not Carolina by
No.
any stretch of the imagination.
But you are both honorary consuls and are, talking with folks on the ground every day. And so you understand kind of the issues that they're dealing with. And we have had a few questions come in this week that we can start off with addressing right away. But for those watching, if you have questions, please drop them into the chat on Facebook Live, or if you are attending on Zoom, we have the chat on Zoom as well. So the first question we got this week was, there's a woman here in California. She is Portuguese, but she does not have citizenship. She would like to travel to Portugal. And this really isn't a consular issue. It's kind of a travel issue, but it does involve something that she would have to get from the consulate. So she doesn't have Portuguese citizenship. Her father does. And so the idea was that she could travel to Portugal and stay with her dad, who is there. But right now, the stipulations are, if you are an American national, you can only travel to Portugal for a family reunion. And essentially, that's a broad definition, but what we were able to find out is that essentially means that there's an imminent need for you to go to Portugal. So funeral, taking care of a sick family member that has nobody else to take care of them. You essentially just have to prove the need for you to go. Now, she can also only stay with an immediate family member. And that immediate family member has to have permanent residency in Portugal. So she can't go and stay with a cousin, right? And even if her dad is there, if her dad lives here most of the time and doesn't have permanent residency status in Portugal, then she can't go stay with him while he's visiting. So it's a little complicated, right? So essentially what she would have to do is find out if, because her father has a house there and citizenship, does he have permanent residency status? If he does, he should have a card that is a permanent residency card, and she has to show a copy of that card both at the airline and at Border Patrol, essentially at customs when she gets to the airport in Portugal, right?
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's complicated. I think that all this is going to change, and the situation is very fluid. And personally, I think that it's going to change probably in the next 30 days. But we don't have any data that it's going to change. Okay, it's just the way the situation is fluid here in the United States, with things opening up, as you know, and Europe and actually Portugal doing quite well right now. The Azores doing sometime 1 week better, 1 week not as well. For those who have family there, I just had someone actually ask me the same situation, in that her husband is a Portuguese citizen, okay, has the ID card and passport, and she is not. She is of Portuguese background, but has not gotten her citizenship. She was born here. Her parents were born in Portugal, and she's actually beginning that process. And so I have another person who I know who is actually in Portugal right now, who is in the Azores, who has a house there. And she is a Portuguese citizen and her husband is not. And they let him in with, she had a,
showed her marriage certificate.
Showed her marriage certificate, and there was no issue with there. So that's one way. But I think for someone with a father, that I think the best way is exactly what you explained. If her father is indeed a Portuguese citizen, and maybe she can tell him that she needs to go there to be with him, because if he's elderly, he may need some care or something. I don't think it depends a lot on the airline and who the custom agent is at that particular time.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we were advised is that she would need to get a letter from the local consulate, so in this case San Francisco, stating that she has reason, family reunion reasons to visit Portugal. So it actually, and I don't know if it has to actually state the reason, or the consul just has to say, this person has permission to go, or she has reason to go. And then she takes that along with a copy of her dad's residency card and presents that, and she should be okay. But then there was the tricky situation that she has children and they're minors, and she wants to take them with her. That will only work if she can show that there's no one else here in the States that can take care of them while she's traveling. So how do you do that? Again, do you just have a letter from the consulate stating this person does not have childcare here in the States, therefore she has to take her children with her? So that's a little tricky situation. So that was one situation that we were able to find out a little bit more information. I thought was worth sharing with the rest of the community, because I'm sure there are other people like that
Sure,
are facing
sure.
that.
Sure, it's a tough time, and I just, again, if you're must traveling and you're going to travel to Portugal in the next 30 days, things are very fluid. I think after the summer or after midsummer, things will be a little bit different, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other question that we had, it's a little bit of a lengthy citizenship question. So there's a woman, she's living here. Her parents are citizens, but they've both passed away, and she doesn't have any of their documentation. Like, so she doesn't have, or if, I think she has an very old passport from like 1960 or something like that. And so the question is, how do you, and this person is living on the East Coast. So how does she go about finding or getting a copy of her parents' citizenship status, right? Because she can't get a new ID card because they're passed away, right?
But
So she can't.
She can apply with the parents' birth certificates, an updated birth certificate. Okay, so proving that they were born in the United States, in Portugal, they're Portuguese citizens.
How does she get one of those if she doesn't have their birth certificate?
If she doesn't have their birth certificates, you can get it through the Loja do Cidadão online. I don't have the link, but
Okay.
there is, the link to the Loja do Cidadão. It's an online service. And you can get it that way, or of course, some of the best ways, of course, is if you have someone in Portugal.
Yeah, right.
That is usually the best way, without having much. But the Loja do Cidadão, the citizens store, as it's called, literally translating, it does have an online service that you can get online, and you can order birth certificates, wedding documentation, wedding certificates. You can order, certificates of death, any of those. You can order them online, and they're sent to you. So that she can do that, because she doesn't need their passport. She needs basically their birth certificates from Portugal, proving that they were Portuguese citizens. So as long as they were born there, they're Portuguese citizen. And if she's a daughter of an immigrant, then she doesn't even have to. I don't know if she has any issues with the language, but if it was her parents who were immigrants, she doesn't have to do the language test.
Right. Correct.
So she would just need those. Then she would need their marriage certificate. Remember that if they were married here in the United States, I don't know if they were married there, she needs to get the marriage certificate from there as well. But if they're married here in the United States, she needs to get it from here. And when she turns in that paperwork, it has to go with an apostille. So any documentation that goes in, whether you're submitting, because you can submit these, of course, as you know, Angela, through the mail. You can send it, to Lisbon, or you can make an appointment to go to your local consulate. Kind of good luck with that one in some areas, but well, it's true. I mean, I'm not trying to be facetious. It is the truth. In some areas it's taken, in some areas it's just a few weeks. In some areas it's 3-6 months. So some people are opting for just sending the documentation to Lisbon directly. Make sure they cross all the I's and T's and fill out the documentation and everything else. And so just make sure that whether you're going to turn it in person or send it, that every document that is required in the United States has to have an apostille, including your passport. So if this person has to, of course, show who she is, so a copy of your passport has to have an apostille. And here in California, I don't know how it is in each each state is different. Here in California, at least until June 15th, you can mail the documentation to the state, and the state secretary of state will mail it back to you. After June 15th, when things open up, we don't know how that's going to be. If it's going to go back to where you have to, in the past, before COVID, you had to go in person.
In person.
To
Okay.
Sacramento.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yes, in person to Sacramento. And that's the only place you can get it. There's no, you can't use, now you can do it through a, you can do it through a notary public, and the notary public,
notaries can do an apostille.
They cannot do an apostille, but they can.
But they'll send it for you.
They'll send it for you because they have to verify that you are that person. Okay.
Got it.
So you have to have your documentation done by a notary, send it to the Sacramento office of the Secretary of State here in California, and then it'll be sent back to you. But we don't know what's going to happen after June 15th.
Right. No, it's always a good reminder to people that they have to get those documents apostilled and not just notarized. It's a very big distinction.
Very big. And each state is different. Some states, I think you can mail it in, and some states you have to go in person.
Right. And so then once she registers their marriage, then she also has to get her birth registered in Portugal. So it's like a whole kind of series of things, right?
Well, she can if their marriage, that's another issue. But if her parents were married in Portugal, then she just had to submit everything. But if her parents were married in the United States, she has to register that marriage certificate in Portugal first. And then once she has that marriage certificate registered in Portugal, then she can go ahead and submit everything,
Right. But that website, the Loja de them, we're going to post it in the comments here below, because I didn't know about that. And I think that's a really important resource, because a lot of people just are, where do I get the documents? Do I have to go to the archivos? Do I have to go, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, of course, we're looking for documents. These are folks, it's their parents or their grandparents. So, I mean, it's a little bit tricky if it's a grandparent and you're older and your grandparent was born before the Republic, before 1910. That's a little bit trickier. But, if we're talking about, a parent that was born, 40 or 50 or 60 years ago, it shouldn't be.
It should be there.
Yeah.
It should be there.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we also received another question. A gentleman was able to get his citizenship via marriage, but he recently discovered that his grandparents were Portuguese citizens, and so he wants to get, he feels that he wants to know if there's a difference between if you've gotten nationality through marriage or nationality through blood. Is there a difference in status? And that's something that we can find out. So we
can try to find out for sure, but I don't think so. Once you're a citizen and you have a citizen,
and you have all the rights, right?
If you have an ID card that says you're Portuguese, a cartão de cidadão, and a Portuguese ID card, you're a citizen. It doesn't have anything there saying you're citizens by by this or that. I mean, you're a citizen of the country. You have all your rights.
Right. And the reason he was asking is because he wants his children to be able to get citizenship, and he absolutely can do that, right? Because he has his cartão de cidadão.
He's a Portuguese citizen. His children can apply for it. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no way, or if he wanted to switch his status from by marriage to,
not that I know of. We can try to find that out, but not that I know of, because I think once you have your citizen, you're a citizen. So it doesn't make any difference, how you got it. I mean.
Right. Okay. All right. Let's see if we have any other questions on Facebook or Zoom. I don't see any right now, but
one of the tough issues, of course, about the citizenship, Angela, is with folks whose grandparents were the ones who came over. So in other words, if you're going to acquire your citizenship through your grandparents, as well, about that, you have to do the language test. And I would, that's one thing that I would like to see PALCUS and all the other organizations get involved a little bit more and pressure our authorities in Portugal, because that really does need to be changed.
for the youth, for them to not have to take Portuguese language
No,
tests?
because we either look at if we want to allow people to become a citizen of Portugal, why should the language be a barrier? Because the way the world is, I mean, um, Israel doesn't do that. They have the largest diaspora. I mean, it's a little bit different
Mm,
because it also involves a religion. We know that.
mhm,
But if you're concerned about your diaspora, if you really want to build a diaspora, if that is including the commercial and economic ties, and cultural ties with
mhm.
Portugal. It's very tough for someone who is in their 50s or 60s and has never learned the language to all of a sudden be fluent in the language to take a language test. It's not the easiest thing in the world. And I think that's something that I know there's a political movement in Portugal. And I think with some pressure from the communities, it might change. We'll see.
Right. Speaking of grandparents, there was a question on a previous session that we wanted to clarify, and that was, can a grandparent apply for citizenship for their grandchild? And they can't apply for them. They could certainly help them through the process, right?
Mhm.
But they would also ultimately need to get parental
Right.
permission. Now, if the parents are not living, then whoever is their official guardian gives permission. If the grandparent is the official guardian, then yes, they can do that. But let's say a godparent or an aunt or an uncle or something like that is the official guardian, then that official guardian has to give permission for the grandparent to help the grandchild apply. But it's also, to your point about the language test, if your grandchild is a toddler and not speaking, then they won't be able to pass the test. They'll have to wait until they're old enough to take the language test, because they will have to take the language test. So yeah, you can't apply for your grandchild who's an infant until they're old enough to speak, essentially.
Sure.
So, all right. What are some of the other issues that have come up recently? I know that you're getting calls all the time as well.
Well, there's a lot of there's always, of course, people. The majority of the calls I get and the majority of the emails I get are folks who are of Portuguese citizens and who have an ID card or a passport, and they want to travel this summer to Portugal, and their passport has expired, and they just looked at it and said, "Hey, I want to go in August, and my passport has expired. What do I do now?" It's
Mhm.
here in California. It's just about impossible, to do that. I mean, to get a renewed passport between the next, month and a half or 2 months. So, a word of caution to those of you who are who have dual citizenship, or who or who are legal residents in the United States and have a Portuguese passport and travel with your Portuguese passport. If it is expiring in the next 7 or 8 months, make an appointment wherever you are, wherever is your nearest consulate, and do it. I mean, if you're
Yeah,
thinking about traveling, even if you're only thinking about, maybe you're thinking about going to Portugal in
next
Christmas time,
year,
yeah,
whatever.
or
Just
next,
do
or
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
do it as soon as you can. I mean, if it's less than a year, I would do it. If you are um if your passport expires, in December, January, December of this year, January of next year, I would make an appointment as soon as I can, and I'd get it done.
Right.
So unless your
And you
passport,
have to go in person. It's not something that
correct,
could be done by mail.
correct,
Right.
correct. You have to go in person, or if you are in a state like California, where there are the permanências consulares, or actually in Florida the same way, where the consul general sends a technician, a
Representative.
representative that does the documentation. Then check with the whoever is in that community that is in charge of that, because you'll need to make an appointment. I mean, I know actually tomorrow and the next day, today and tomorrow, I should say, they're doing permanências consulares in LA, but I know it's completely booked.
But yeah.
So and we're back to some waiting lists, not as big, but we're back to some waiting lists. So here in California, if your passport is certainly expiring in 8 or 9 months, do that. And I would say the same thing in anywhere else throughout the U.S. The other issue, of course, is always with the other issue is also with the council, with people wanting dual citizenship. There's always, I mean, that's when I get That's what I answer about
Biggest.
10 emails
Yeah.
per week.
Yeah.
And it's just sometimes some questions that I can answer. Sometimes it's not questions that I can't answer. And sometimes it's people from out of state as well, from other states, like, I'm in California, as you know, and these are people from Nevada or Arizona or states sometimes is, like Wyoming. I've had calls from Wyoming, Montana. And so, and sometimes it's hard for people, especially those who are acquiring, even if it's their parents, but they don't know the language. It can be tough, because the documentation, Portugal is not very, very friendly when it comes to language on documents, even for people who were born in Portugal, or people who were born here and speak, but don't speak the lingo that is used in the official documentation. So, it's always, if you have someone or a service that can help you, I think it's important. So
And
you don't
Palka's
submit
actually,
something.
it is very tricky to clarify what they're actually asking for. So, and there are some services in California right now, and I think one in New Jersey that can help you fill out that paperwork. If you go to the Palkas website, there's I think it's palkas.org/consular support. And those agencies are there. There's also a lot of questions and other resources there. We do have a question that came in from Facebook. If I'm born in the Azores, can my children become citizens? Their father is not Portuguese. So yes, right?
Azores is still Portugal, still. We don't know for how long, but no, I'm just kidding.
The whole other webinar, dude.
That's
So if the parents are married, like we said earlier, you have to register the marriage in Portugal. If they're not married, then you need the father's permission as well. Correct.
Yeah,
so
indeed. And if the children are underage, the parents can do, of course, all the paperwork, but as you mentioned, Angela, the first thing is to get the marriage recognized in Portugal, or the father's permission if you're not married, and then you can get it done for your children under 18. If they're over 18, then of course it's the same process, but it's just they're doing it as adults. It's a little bit different. Okay.
And they wouldn't need, like you said, they wouldn't need a parent's permission. They could just do it.
Just indeed. And it is, if you're born in the Azores, as this person said, she was born in the Azores, make sure you have all your documentation, of course, because, you're going to need your documentation to prove that you are a Portuguese citizen. And so that's important.
We also have a question about traveling to Portugal on an expired passport. I did hear a while ago that they were allowing people to travel on an expired passport. Do you know if that's still the case?
Still the case. It has not changed. I haven't received anything from the Consul General saying that it's changed.
Okay.
So it's still it's still allowed. And I know people have done it, especially people here in the West Coast that have gone with expired passports that have the dual citizenship. So, they will let them enter the country with the expired passport. And then once they're there, they do it, because usually in Portugal, it just takes a couple of days. And it depends where you are in Portugal, obviously.
Right. And while they're there, where would they go to renew the passport? What's the name of the office? And we can, again, look up the website and provide the address.
Well, there's the so-called Registro Civil, or the civil registry. And there's one in just about every municipality has one. So maybe the freguesia, of course, or the aldeia, if that's where you're going, in Trás-os-Montes, or, in the rural village of the Azores, it may not have that. But the municipalities, the villages, the village and cidades, they all have registro civil that you can take care of it there. Right. And it depends. I mean, in the Azores Islands, it's a little bit more complicated. In some of them, in the major islands, the big cities, it's done like in Lisbon or Porto or Coimbra or Faro, any of the major cities. It's basically done, within a day or two. It depends how busy they are. But again, you got to be careful, because of the rules that are going on there as well. They can only take so many people per day. So if you're going there and you're going with some time,
call in advance, try and make an appointment.
Yeah. If you're going there and you're going to be there, 2 or 3 weeks, fine. If you're going to be there and you're only going to be there maybe 4 or 5 days or a week. Who knows if
Might
you can
not,
get
yeah.
it done or not? Yeah, yeah.
Because if you go and you have an appointment and you fill the paperwork, you have to go back and pick it up in person.
Sure.
You can't like fill out the paperwork and hey, mail it back to me in the States. No, you have to be there long enough so that you can go back.
Right.
That's
right.
important for people to remember. I don't
Yeah.
think people think about that.
Yeah, yeah. It can't be mailed to you in the United States. It's true.
We have a question here. What about the Loja do Cidadão, which we talked about earlier in continental Portugal? I understand you can get your passport renewed there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. The Loja
great.
do Cidadão, any Loja do Cidadão, anywhere through any of the major municipalities, you can also do it, as well as the Registro Civil. Yes.
And one last question.
The Loja do Cidadão is probably even more popular because there's usually lots of them all over.
One last question here before we have to wrap it up. How expired are they allowing you to travel? Because this person's is 20 years old.
The
passport? Her passport is 20 years old.
Yeah, I don't think that's allowed. I don't have the answer, but I was under the impression passports that were expired within like the time of the COVID or a few months before COVID hit.
Yeah, it was only a couple of years. It wasn't like 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll find out the official answer.
I don't know exactly what the length is. I really don't, but I doubted that if a passport hasn't been done in 20 years, if they'll allow that. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll find out and we'll let you know. And then again, one last question here. Is the San Francisco consulate open? Yes, it is open, but it's by appointment only. The way that their calendar is working online is that it will currently show everything is booked. You just have to go back every day and see if something has opened up. So a little bit of a hassle, but that's kind of how it's working right now. If you email them, they're usually pretty good about replying to an email, but phone is not something that they're answering right now. So email is kind of your only option for contacting them.
I have folks contacting me telling me that they're just going to go up there. I don't think it's a good idea, just to show up, but you can. People, here from the valley or from parts where the folks have to drive 3 or 4 hours. I don't think it's wise, without just showing up. If you are near the San Francisco, if you're just, the other side of the bridge in Hayward or something like that, you might want to show up because there are appointments that get canceled. So if you have the day off or if you're retired, and you can get an appointment, you can take a chance. And there are just about every week, there's 1 or 2 people who don't show up for appointments. And I have had people, including people from the Turlock area, which is about a little over 2 hours or 3 hours almost now with traffic from San Francisco. And they've gotten there and they've waited.
They've had luck.
Yeah, they've had luck. So
it's
up to you.
All right, Denise. Well, thank you so much. We're going to wrap it up. And until our next session, thanks
next
for
session,
being
you'll get Carolina, and she's a lot better looking than I. She's a lot better looking than I am. That's for sure.
All right, everybody. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.